Hello, and welcome back to Sharing a Chapter a Day. This is Me, and today I will be reading Chapter 60 of Engagement in Peril by Dara Odoe. Chapter 60 is titled A United States Citizen. I had my U.S. citizenship interview in February of 1997 and passed with flying colors. The immigration inspector who interviewed me was an older Caucasian man who went by the books and was pretty cool. The exam for me then was simple. He asked me to read several sentences from a paragraph and some articles. And then he asked me who was Martin Luther King Jr. And I said and replied, Martin Luther King Jr., sir, was a civil rights activist who peacefully protested to get the same rights for colored people as whites. Once he had heard my articulate answer, he then told me that I had passed the interview and exam. Several months down the road that year, I was sworn in and became a United States citizen of America in April of 2007 at the San Diego Federal Courthouse in downtown San Diego. There were about 2,000 people being sworn in on that proud and memorable day and morning for all of us to become naturalized U.S. citizens. I and several other military personnel were asked to come to the inauguration in our military uniform. So we were all in uniform. We were in uniform and we were the first one and seated in the very first row that stood before the large convention stage. A couple of my friends and coworker, Marai, Hatch, and his wife, Stephanie, drove me to the federal courthouse and came in with me to cheered me on. My guests were seated up in the balcony with the rest of the guests who were family, friends, and onlookers. I didn't bother inviting my mother, family, or benevolence then. They were too far away, and I didn't think it was a big deal after all. As each naturalized candidate checked in, he or she was given their citizen certificate in a large white envelope, a miniature U.S. flag, and some document papers, and a handshake of congratulations before we were seated at our assigned area. Once all personnel were checked in and seated, and after several long speeches about the responsibility of a U.S. citizen, like voting and doing civic duties and services, you know, going to jury duty and such, the court's judge had all candidates stand up, raise their right hands, and repeat the inauguration speech, and we were all sworn in as United States citizens that mid-morning. The newly appointed citizens also said the Pledge of Allegiance while our right hand were placed over our heart. Everybody said the Pledge of Allegiance that morning. As we said our pledges, some showed sign of tears and some wept with sounds of joy and hope. The crowd of guests and family cheered us on, and at various intervals I could hear my name being yelled out by my companions who came along for the momentous occasion in my life. It was both funny and embarrassing at the moment to hear them yell out sock, 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 sock the whole time this was going on. Those are your true friend, Dara. They were good people for you, and you to them as well. Let's not forget who they are, and let's not forget who they are to you. I'm sure Caress, Karen, and the rest of the HEMONC crew would have loved to be there for you and cheer you on as well. But duties calls, and they were patient to be taken care of back at the Hematology Oncology Clinic. And they can't just up and shut down a military clinic on account of you. But they sure congratulated you when you returned back to base that day to work for the rest of the day. I wish Shinshin could have been there as well. I'm sure he would have been proud of my accomplishment and wanting to better myself as a person in general. Shinshin was that genuine then. Shinshin was the only person who knew that I wanted to be CNO of the United States Navy then. And he often told me that I would be Would be as long as I stayed true to myself and work hard. In my thoughts, he was there beside me to cheer me on and give me congratulations. During the whole event, everyone was cheerful, joyful, and appreciative in honor of becoming a U.S. citizen. We also had several guest speakers during our inauguration. One guest was a Vietnamese man who talked of his flee from Vietnam and how being a U.S. citizen has given him much success. And now he runs several chains of business throughout the state of California because he has found freedom and the right to pursue his goals and dreams. All the speakers that morning had stories of success, and that becoming a U.S. citizen was one of their proudest moments in their life. After all the speakers had spoken, our host had everyone stand up to be recognized when their country of origin was called. That morning, about 50 different countries were called out that day from A to Z. The majority of the people that were sworn in that day in San Diego came from Mexico. Second largest group was from the Philippines, and the rest of the 40 other 8 countries that were represented that day were were much smaller. And when they called Cambodia, in my navy dress whites, I proudly stood up, and one other person also stood up from afar, a much older lady who was way on the opposite side of the room, courthouse, toward the back end of the entire gathering. I could see from a distance that she too was proud of what she had accomplished. I'm sure her children and grandchildren were proud of her as well. I felt warm and gooey that day. As I stood up and looked back into the crowd, my companions once again cheered on. Sock, 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 sock! Clapping and happily yelling out my name in my direction, slightly embarrassing me for the moment. I was glad they were there for me all the same, and I was honored that I had become a United States citizen that day. And a plus, now I was able to turn in my boost packet that I had been working on and busting my ass to do and putting together for the officer commissioning program. The deadline for the packet was in June of that year, and I was ready. After the inauguration, I took a while to sort through the crowd and find my friends. Once we met up, they all embraced me with hugs and warm congratulations. I was quite honored to have them there, and humbly, I thanked them for being there for me. After we left the federal courthouse, my companion and I went to have lunch at a nearby Chinese restaurant and enjoyed each other's company. Afterward, we boarded Hatch's vehicle and headed back to work at the Naval Medical Center in San Diego. Once we were back on our command, Stephanie took their car and drove home on her own. I thanked her for being there for me that morning, and we hugged and said our goodbyes for the day. Once I arrived back in the Hemont clinic, my ride reminded us of my accomplishment. Everyone clapped and congratulated me as I walked in, and I smilingly thanked them and went back to work and did my duties as usual. With grace and effort, I was elated that day to have become a U.S. citizen. Later on that day after work, I called Mom and Benevolent to tell them the good news, and they congratulated me and told me how proud they were of my accomplishment of becoming a U.S. citizen and hoped to see me during the weekend when I would go home to Long Beach and spend some time with them. Work for me went on as normal as before. I was the clinic's best hospital corpsman, and I did my work to the T. With my hard work and dedication, about a month later, I was appointed to the position of customer service representative for the hematology oncology clinic, where a large picture of me, dressed in my working blues uniform, was framed and posted on the west side of the clinic's wall. I was now appointed the responsibility of dealing directly with patients and customer care and concern. I was there to let patients and customers know if they needed someone to talk to about their representation and issues, that they can come and talk to me about it. I was honored by that being appointed position and did my task as the customer's representative honorably and dutifully. I addressed concerns people have and took it further to the appropriate people that were able to deal with those concerns and problems that patients may have and get them the satisfaction that they had sought for. You were the man then, Dara. People came to you for their personal problems and concern, and you took really good care of them. No wonder everyone loves you, Dara. You were just that great. Now then, what the hell has happened to you since then? You are no longer that great sailor like everyone saw you then. You have become foul and rigid. You are such a mystery now. No one really knows you any more. I wish I had my old self back, and perhaps I can get off this pile of shit that I am in and on with my life as a savior of my beloved Shinshin. Perhaps one day I will be able to see him eye to eye and beg for his forgiveness. Until that day comes, I will do my damnedest to become a better person and a better human being, all the same. Just wait for me. Wait for me, Shin Shin. Thank you for listening. This is the end of chapter 60. Be on the lookout for chapter 61, titled Tragic Loss of a Good Man. This is Do, Ra, me, and I'll see you later. Thank you.